Look, I'm going to be straight with you about what went down, because I'm done acting like I should feel ashamed for finally choosing myself. I'm Vanessa, 40 years old. Up until 10 months ago, I was married to Keith, the most predictable man alive. He's 43, works in supply chain, and thinks being a decent husband means paying bills on time and hauling the trash out once a week. We have a 10-year-old daughter, Lily. Honestly, she's the only real gift that came out of 12 years together. You want to know what passion looks like? It's not Keith mumbling, "How was your day?" while glued to his phone. It's not the half-hearted shoulder pat after 30 seconds of going through the motions in bed, leaving me staring at the ceiling wondering if this was all life had to offer. Passion is being wanted. It's someone actually noticing you, not just seeing you as the woman who does grocery runs and keeps track of parent-teacher meetings. I work admin at a medical office, nothing glamorous, but steady. Keith had his logistics job, and together we had this beige routine: work, dinner, Lily's homework, his TV shows, bed. Repeat. I started to feel invisible. Keith would shuffle in, give me that absent-minded forehead kiss like I was some elderly relative, ask about dinner, then sink into his recliner for the night. That's when gaming entered the picture. I needed something that belonged to me, something Keith couldn't strip down into another chore or budget discussion. I found this online strategy game with chat features, and suddenly, for the first time in years, I was talking to people about more than dentist appointments and grocery lists. That's where I met him, Master D. At first it was about game moves, but he had this way of leading that Keith never had. Keith's idea of decision-making is asking me what we should do about literally everything. Master D. He knew exactly what he wanted. When Keith asked what I was doing on my laptop, I'd say gaming, and he'd nod, never actually curious. That should have told me everything about how checked out he was. A man who cares doesn't settle for surface-level answers. Master D started messaging me privately. He asked about my dreams, my thoughts, my life. Not just check-ins, but real conversations. When he revealed his lifestyle, that he was dominant, guiding women to explore themselves, something inside me woke up. Here was someone decisive, someone unafraid to take control, unlike Keith, who couldn't even pick a paint color without turning it into a committee vote. The first time we video chatted, I felt more seen than in my entire marriage. He looked at me like I was rare, valuable. He explained he had multiple submissives competing for his attention. That didn't turn me off, it pushed me to be better. Finally, someone with standards. Someone who demanded effort. When he started giving me instructions, what to wear, how to move, what to say, I obeyed every time. It was like finally waking from a long sleep. While Keith was downstairs helping Lily with homework, I was upstairs discovering what it meant to be wanted. Soon I was taking pictures, filming videos, at home when Keith was gone, during lunch breaks, even in public bathrooms when we were out as a family. The secret was intoxicating. Keith stayed oblivious, blind to the fact that I wasn't even the same woman he'd married. When Keith tried to initiate, I pushed him away. How could I go back to his routine, uninspired touch after knowing real passion? His disappointment meant nothing compared to the rush of Master D's next demand. Keith's foreplay was asking if I wanted to go to bed early, like booking a dentist appointment. Master D made it clear, hesitation meant losing him. I couldn't risk that. He valued my effort, pushed me further, expected more. Keith had let me fade into the background. Master D dragged me into the spotlight. His commands grew constant, demanding, consuming. I rearranged everything to stay available. Keith never questioned the sudden secretiveness, the way I guarded my phone or vanished for work calls. That's the thing. Keith assumed he knew me, but he never looked deeper. I was sending Master D proof of my devotion, and for once I felt noticed, appreciated. Keith just wanted me quiet, steady, grateful for his paycheck. So when Master D said he was flying into my city and wanted to meet, I didn't think twice. I told Keith I was out with my friend Sarah and drove to the spot he gave me. Climbing into his car was like stepping into another reality. He claimed me, made me his, in the back seat of that car parked behind some deserted buildings. And the whole time, I knew Keith was probably at home with Lily, helping her with homework or making her a grilled cheese. The irony wasn't lost on me. Keith stayed the steady, reliable dad, while I was finally learning what it felt like to be claimed by someone who knew exactly how to take control. Master D documented everything, saying the photos proved my loyalty and showed the other women what true submission looked like. I felt proud, accomplished, like I finally mattered enough to deserve someone's undivided attention. When I got home, Keith casually asked if I'd had fun shopping with Sarah, never lifting his eyes from his laptop. He was so disconnected that he didn't question a single thing. That night, when he tried to touch me in bed, I felt disgusted. How could I go back to his lukewarm, polite routine after experiencing real intensity? I told him I had a headache, rolled away, and he just said, "Okay," before drifting off. That was Keith. No persistence, no fight. If he truly cared, wouldn't he have pressed, asked, demanded to know what was wrong? He only found out by accident. His phone died, and he grabbed mine to call his sister Patricia. That's when he saw the messages. I should have locked things down better, but part of me was exhausted from living a double life. Maybe I even wanted him to find out. When he confronted me with screenshots, I felt both irritated and strangely relieved. Finally, Keith showed some emotion. He demanded answers: who Master D was, how long, what we'd done. For the first time in years, his attention was fully on me. I told him the truth. I was tired of pretending Keith satisfied me in any real way. I explained that Master D gave me desire, passion, recognition, things Keith never offered. Keith's reaction was predictable: wounded pride, accusations of betrayal, lectures about family. But not once did he ask why. Not once did he stop to consider what had driven me to look elsewhere. Instead, he obsessed over Master D, comparing himself, needing every humiliating detail. When I tried to explain that Master D woke up parts of me Keith had ignored, he accused me of shifting blame. The man who coasted through a decade of marriage suddenly wanted to act outraged that I'd found someone who actually saw me. He kept asking what Master D had that he didn't, and inside I wanted to scream. Confidence, decisiveness, the ability to make me feel worth pursuing. I agreed to counseling mostly to stall, to buy myself time. The therapist, an older woman clearly biased toward Keith, kept harping on accountability and rebuilding trust. She wanted apologies and promises, wanted me to vow never to look outside again. But I wasn't sorry for feeling alive. I was only sorry Keith found out before I was ready. I refused to regret choosing passion over being treated like a roommate who occasionally shared a bed. She framed it as betrayal. But what about Keith's betrayal? The years of indifference, the way he let our marriage rot through sheer passivity. Master D stopped replying to me after Keith contacted him, which just proved he wasn't in it for the long haul. He wanted thrills, not responsibility. Keith filed for divorce 4 months later. Said he couldn't trust me, couldn't rebuild with someone who'd lied. But the truth. What really stung was that he never once asked what he could have done differently. Never owned his part in creating a marriage so lifeless I had to look elsewhere just to feel anything. The divorce was brutal. His lawyer painted me as the selfish cheater who wrecked the family, while Keith played the noble husband who had done everything right. Nobody wanted to hear about years of emotional neglect or how he stopped showing up as a partner. Keith got primary custody of Lily. That shocked me. I thought courts leaned toward mothers, but apparently an affair outweighs years of being taken for granted. Lily keeps asking when her dad and I will get back together. And now I'm the villain in everyone's story, for refusing to keep pretending a dead marriage was worth saving. 10 months since Keith moved out, I'm in a tiny one-bedroom apartment trying to start over. The house went to him. He could afford the mortgage, I couldn't. I scraped to cover rent while he lives comfortably in the home we built. And of course, he's already with someone new. Friends keep updating me on his happiness. Some quiet accountant named Rebecca, who probably mistakes Keith's dull predictability for genuine stability. They can have each other. Honestly, she's welcome to deal with his lack of spark and initiative for the rest of her life. What still stings is how fast Keith bounced back. Within 6 months of our divorce papers being signed, he was already parading this woman in front of Lily like the three of them were some picture-perfect little family. Meanwhile, I'm still piecing together a life I didn't even realize I had blown apart while chasing something real. People keep saying I threw away a good man, but they've never lived with the kind of man who makes you invisible. A good man doesn't create a marriage where his wife has to search outside just to feel passion or connection. Keith may be dependable, but dependability means nothing when you're starving for intimacy. Dating at 40 is brutal. Men either want 20-somethings or they're desperate for an instant stepmom for their kids. Nobody's looking for a woman who's still untangling herself, who's just learning what true desire feels like after years of settling for lukewarm affection. I keep telling myself Keith's shiny new happiness is temporary, that it'll fade once the novelty with Rebecca wears off. But when I saw him picking up Lily last week, looking more confident and content than I'd seen in years, I had to wonder if maybe our divorce was the best thing that ever happened to him. I'd never say it out loud, because deep down I still believe I deserved better than what Keith gave me. I wanted to be pursued, chosen, fought for. Keith never made me feel worth the effort. And now Rebecca benefits from lessons he clearly learned after our marriage collapsed. She gets Keith 2.0, the attentive version I begged for but never got. That's the hardest part, realizing she's enjoying the version of him I tried and failed to reach for 12 years. Still, I can't regret choosing myself over a marriage that was killing me slowly. I refuse to apologize for putting my needs first instead of living on scraps of his distracted attention. Everyone frames me as the villain who broke our family. But what family? We were 3 people under one roof, going through motions while I faded into the background of his safe, predictable world. At least now I know what it feels like to be desired, to be claimed by someone who wanted me fully, even if he turned out to be a coward who vanished the moment things got complicated. At least I got a taste of what I'd been missing. Sometimes I wonder if I should have tried harder to tell Keith how invisible I felt before I strayed. But he was never the kind of man who could handle that level of honesty. He would have suggested date nights, a vacation, some surface-level bandage. He never understood depth. The therapist says I need to take responsibility for my choices. But how do you take responsibility for craving life in your own skin? How do you apologize for refusing to accept a marriage that erased you? Keith might be thriving with his new girlfriend, but that doesn't erase the years he treated me like furniture, just there, occasionally maintained. Most days, I tell myself being alone is better than being invisible. Some days I wonder if maybe I should have settled for lukewarm instead of nothing. But then I remember how alive I felt with Master D, how wanted, how seen. I know I can't go back to pretending that kind of passion doesn't matter. Now Keith and Rebecca are apparently talking about moving in together. Good for them. Maybe she sees his steadiness as romantic instead of suffocating. Maybe she doesn't need intensity to feel whole. But me? I'm still waiting for someone who can give me what Master D awakened, only with the backbone to stay when life gets messy. Someone who sees me as worth the fight, not just convenient. Even if that means starting over at 40 with nothing but the memory of what passion really feels like to keep me going.